In today's video, I'll be restoring an almost ancient hammer back to its former glory using only small tools you can probably find around your house. Then I'll be taking on the ultimate DIY organizational hack, which is adding a pegboard to your garage. At least now I'll have some place to put my hammer. Plus, more things you guys dared me to do in the comment section. In the last video I asked you guys, what is the last thing you did for the first time? And your comments were hilarious and weird. And honestly, they were everything I ever could have hoped for. But since you guys came up with so many comments, I thought I'd ask another question. What is something you've worked on for a long time? It could be anything from getting your diploma to developing a beer belly. Just be creative with your answers and put whatever you can come up with in the comment section. I'll be featuring 10 of my favorite to be featured in the next video. Now we'll be getting things started with this first challenge that I honestly thought would be a lot easier than it was. And if you have giant rotary tools to work with, it can be, but I wanted to try to do this with just whatever I had laying around, which included a Dremel, a drill, a wire brush, and some sandpaper. However, I did end up having to buy one tool, but just to replace one of the ones I started with. And also, this is my first time ever trying to restore a tool, so if I mess something up or if you just want to leave me a pointer, let me know in the comments. The next thing that we're going to be trying to do in today's video is restore this old rusty hammer. Now this thing has got rust all over it and scars all over the sides, and I don't even know how that got there. It looks like a bear got a hold of this thing or something. I mean, just one look at this hammer and you can tell that this thing has been through a lot. I mean, I've used this to build all sorts of things, and I'm sure whoever had this before me was building caveman huts, because this thing must have been around forever. I really don't even know where I got this from, but seeing as how I've used it for so many years, I figured it's probably worth restoring. And also seeing as how restoring old tools is somewhat of a trend right now on YouTube, I figured that's even more of a reason to give it a shot. And that being said, let's get this thing going. Now what I'm going to be trying to use is this Dremel right here to just sort of grind off all of the rust on the head. Hopefully this works. I really don't know what to expect as far as the outcome, but there must be some hammer left under here somewhere, and if there is, we're going to uncover it. Now I've used this Dremel before and it's fine for most jobs, but the battery kinda sucks and it kept dying. While doing this, it kinda just seemed like the entire thing was made out of rust. I wasn't even sure how much hammer would be left when I was done, but I saw little bits of metal shining through and that did give me some hope. And just as my hope was starting to build, the battery died. So I resorted to using a wire brush and sandpaper, which was actually good at getting the spots that the Dremel wouldn't reach. However, it was pretty discouraging to see how much rust was coming off, only to find more rust underneath. So occasionally I would just spray the hammer with WD-40, which would rinse the rust off and make the sanding a little bit easier. The next thing I attempted to do while my Dremel was charging was put a Dremel piece on my drill, which was actually pretty good for a little bit. And my drill would go a lot longer without dying. But for some reason, the Dremel attachment kept slipping, probably because it's not meant for that. So I just went back to sanding it by hand, and you can really see the shine starting to come through now, which is obviously a very good sign, so I just kept on sanding. And I thought that would particularly be a good idea because, like I said, the Dremel's not going to be able to reach every single place on this hammer anyways. So this part was kind of necessary, although it almost killed me. So I gotta say, out of all the different stuff I was using to try to sand down this hammer, the least effective was probably the wire brush. But unfortunately with a project like this, you kind of have to work on it for a while to see what happens before you really know whether it's worth it or not. But of all the trends recently on YouTube, I probably like this one the best. Like I said, there's just a certain satisfaction to bringing something back to life that was rusted and probably worthy of being thrown away. Eventually the Dremel was charged back up, and now we've almost got all of the rust off. But I have left some deep gouges into this hammer using the Dremel, and so while I'm doing this, I'm also trying to smooth it out to make sure it's as flat as possible. So I'm actually grinding down some spots now that are already shiny just to make everything as even as I can. And just when it looked like it was almost finished, the battery died again. So finally, I did what I should have done in the first place and just bought a plug-in Dremel. It was cheap and it was a piece of junk for other reasons, but at least it would stay on. And I might actually be able to finish this before I die of old age. So to be honest, this plug-in Dremel is really what saved the day here. Odds are without that, I would probably still be working on this thing. Now like I said, this Dremel is a total piece of junk and the drill bit kept on coming out, but for as often as I Dremel, this will probably do the trick just fine. I might have been pressing a little bit too hard. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever taken on a project like this, so I was bound to have a few hiccups along the way. I also bought a drill attachment which would help bring out an almost mirror finish. And this is the drill attachment. It's basically just a wire brush spinning in a circle, but it did a great job of smoothing everything out, especially because I bought it for only like $2 at the very last minute. but I'll let you guys be the judge. I mean, I personally really enjoyed working on this project. Although you could have just easily bought a new hammer for just a few dollars, or I could have just used this thing. As rusty as it would have still definitely worked. I didn't actually do much improvement to the functionality of this hammer, I just made it look really cool. But on the other hand, rust may have eventually taken this over, so it's good to get that off of there. And if nothing else, it just makes your tools look really cool. I mean, that does look brand new. But there's just something about restoring old stuff that gives you a certain satisfaction. I mean, it's probably the same reason that people like to restore old cars. It's like having a time machine, just bringing something back from the past. And while I can definitely tell there are a few areas that I could have done a better job on, I think overall this is pretty awesome. Moving along, now that I have a nice shiny new old hammer, I need a place to put it. So I thought I'd try out what could possibly be the best DIY organizational hack there is. And that is hanging up a pegboard, which is pretty easy. I started by clearing some stuff out of the way and then cutting small pieces of wood to put behind the corners of the pegboard. Because you need to have your pegboard about an inch off the wall so that way you can actually hang stuff to it. Then I drilled holes in each piece of wood and the wall because I'll be securing everything with butterfly anchors. And this is a butterfly anchor. We've used these on the channel before. It's probably the best way to hang stuff on your wall. So basically the way that it works is it collapses while you push it into the wall, and then it opens up. And then you just kind of screw everything in like that. Yeah, I love butterfly anchors. I've used these for everything that I hang on my wall. TVs, shelves, whatever you want. These are the best way to go. So to walk you through more step by step what I did, I just took each one of the blocks that I had drilled a hole through and placed it on the wall exactly where I needed it to be, which was easy to do by just simply measuring everything out because I knew how big my pegboards were. So once the block was in place, I used the same drill bit that I used before to drill through the wood, and I just drilled straight through the wood and into the drywall. The whole reason for that was just creating a place that I would actually drill out even larger using a different bit later. So basically I'm just drilling through the wall to leave a mark that I'll then drill through with the correct size later. That way the butterfly anchors can slip through and open up on the other side. So looking back, this would have actually been a lot more sturdy if I had used long running boards along all of the edges instead of just at the corners, but that would have required me going out and buying more lumber, and I didn't think it was very necessary. But looking back, it might have actually been easier. Then you're basically done. You just screw the pegboard to the wood, make sure everything is level, and then you hang hooks from the pegboard. That's also stuff you can buy at Lowe's or any hardware store. And I was able to almost put everything in my garage on this pegboard. So here is the finished product. And here is my pegboard, aka the finished product. And as you can see, I've got all sorts of stuff hung on here. I got drills and chainsaws. That's actually a chainsaw for cutting limbs out of trees. I've got a weed whacker, a gigantic rake, couple of saws, and then of course one thing that I definitely need to add to it would be this, my new shiny hammer. When we first started, it looked something like that. It's actually pretty incredible if you look at them side by side. Wow. To think that it looked like that just a day ago and now it's that's pretty amazing. That being said, this is probably the easiest way that you can store a whole bunch of tools in your garage and take up the least amount of space possible. I mean, look, I even have a ladder hanging from this thing. You can't really tell, but that is actually off the ground. And of course, there's tons of room left, so I can hang a whole lot more stuff on here, and believe me, I will. I kind of ran out of hooks, to be honest. So the next thing I wanted to show you guys is something that most channels would call an organizational life hack. After watching many organizational life hack videos, I realized that most of them are just about putting labels on things and stacking things away in drawers and hanging things up. That's pretty much the trick to organizing things. Just gotta make sure that everything's got its place and that place is taking up as least amount of space as possible. Now, for whatever reason, I happen to have a whole bunch of hardware and just random small parts laying around the house all the time. Partly because every time I go and buy something, it comes with extra parts, or maybe it's that I don't know how to put together furniture that well. But either way, there's always tons of that stuff laying around, so I finally figured out a way to organize everything, and that was by buying a small plastic drawer set off of Amazon, writing out labels and masking tape, and getting everything sectioned away. Now, as simple as this is what other channels are calling organizational life hacks. And if you are trying to live a more organized life, this is what it's all about. There's not really going to be one trick for organizing your life, but anytime you can save your own time or space in your house or apartment, you're doing something that's worth doing. And now here is all of the drawers that we've organized, and I'm really happy to have had all of this finally sorted out. My entire house has just looked like one giant junk drawer ever since I moved in, but now I finally got all of these different random things labeled and they can stop laying around my house. and getting lost mostly. And you can actually see over here in the pins department where my girlfriend had actually started putting an actual label maker to work, but as you can tell, that didn't really get very far. Mostly because I'm always changing out what I need to use these drawers for anyways, so masking tape is probably the best thing for me since I can just rip it off and write a new one anytime that I want. But it's pretty convenient because now I know that anytime I need an Allen wrench, all I have to do is open this drawer and then boom, I've got all the Allen wrenches I could ever want. And as my collection of random parts grows, I actually have plenty more drawers that need filling, so that will be okay. So I'm not really sure what qualifies as an organizational life hack, but this has definitely changed my life because now I won't spend half of it looking for the random different parts I need every time I have to start a project. And that being said, we'll be on to the next one. So if this video was helpful or if you just enjoyed watching it, make sure to leave it a like. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and of course, bell me for notifications if you'd actually like to see the videos. And as always, I'll be seeing you guys in just a few days with a new video. All right, thanks guys, bye.